Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM, your guide, your host, for a show where we just sit around and we talk about games. We talk about things we love. We talk about beautiful things, things that interest us, and all as they relate to gaming. But before we get started with today's topic, first of all, Rook, man, 4 years of support. Cheers, buddy. I appreciate you. I can't even begin to express how awesome that is, or how old that makes me feel, because you came on, I think, when we were starting our Fading Suns game, and we were well into our Torg game as of that point, I believe. It's hard to believe that Iconic production has been around more than 4 years, and Iconic Podcast has been longer than that. So I just got back from the Gamehole Con, which, despite an unfortunate name, was possibly the best convention I've ever been to. In fact, if I end up going back next year, I may try and see if we can't organize a Iconic hangout. It's in Madison. It's pretty close to, centrally located to a lot of our fans, and had just a great time. Got to meet John Doom, which was fantastic. Got to hang out with the Savage crew. Met a lot of great people. Met a lot of people that I interviewed. A lot of people who recognized me, which was really sort of weird, but also a lot of fun, from either exploring Glorantha or the Torg streams that we've done. I had one guy walk by the Doomguard booth and was like, "Hey, aren't you that guy who used to stream a bunch of Torg on the internet?" Like, yeah. He's like, "Man, I loved those games." So it was a good time. If you ever get a chance to get out to Gamehole Con, it is a blast. So it's October. We're getting near the end of October, and every time um, this time of year rolls around, the temperatures drop, the nights start getting a little darker, and inevitably I start watching a bunch of horror movies with my wife. And I am a big fan of the horror genre. Hey, Padre, good to see you. And one thing that I love a lot are the zombie movies. I love the old Romero movies. I love the Zack Snyder remakes. I love Shaun of the Dead and Army of the Dead, by another Zack Snyder film. And I love zombies because they work on so many levels. They work on the level of just sheer body horror and the level of the fear of disease. They work on the level of sort of mass hysteria, which is a theme that we see a lot in zombie movies, but also kind of a pushback against maybe the rampant consumerism. Like, because right, what is a zombie horde but kind of the perfect consumer mob moving through the world, seeking not to make anything but only to consume everything in their path. Love the book World War Z, the movie less so. And today we're talking about a Savage Worlds supplement, which I gotta say, I had completely was not on my radar until I talked with the guys at Atomic Ninja Studios on the Savage Universe stream. And they put out this amazing zombie product called Dead End. So Dead End it's a fairly large supplement. It is almost 200 pages, and it is focused on tweaking the Savage Worlds rule set for the zombie horror that we see really in kind of the Romero movies and the Walking Dead TV show. So, slow zombies, society is breaking down, every bite could lead to death. And one of the things going into it that I was a little unsure of was, how are they going to reconcile Savage Worlds' pulpy heroic nature with the sort of survival horror of the Romero zombies. And they do this through setting rules. And I have to say, so as I've gotten deeper and deeper into the swag and ace community, I think something that really helps set apart a product, uh, in my eyes, is how well and how innovative the setting rules are. monsters, setting, even edges and hindrances, design wise, while are fun and interesting to me, they made setting rules are really what makes a setting shine for me. And they're dark. We'll talk a little bit about them. But so if you like zombie horror, check out Dead End. They have a massive sort of campaign that they were putting out, a serialized campaign. Again, more along the lines of The Walking Dead, where you really are seeing the toll all of this is having on humanity. They have a campaign primer, which is available for free. I'm going to put all these links in the show notes as we, when this goes live on YouTube. And they have this great infestation deck, which we're going to talk a little bit about here in a bit. But the art is amazing. The layout is fantastic. Carl Kiesler did I believe, let me just double check, did the layout for them. Yep, Carl Kiesler did the layout for them. And it's fantastic. It looks like an actual Savage Worlds product. And Carl does layout with Savage Worlds as well, so that's no surprise. So if you are an aspiring ace and need someone to do a layout for you, check out, give Carl a ring, see if he's available. He does great work. So the art in this game is appropriately dark and delightful. And while there are 12 new archetypes, the archetypes are not what you would expect. We have things like this. This is the professional. The professional is just somebody who, happened to be living in the world when it all goes to hell. Yes, Tink. Tink was at Gamehole Con as well. She got to see Carl Kiesler's just amazing setup and has been doing nothing but goading me into upping my game at the table. Carl Kiesler ran 2 games. I think John Doom got to play in both of them. One was Ghostbusters and Goonies, and the other one was Cocaine Shark, and he had a full trailer park set up with minis at the table. If you want to see just some spectacular setup for any role-playing game, but Savage Worlds in particular, follow Carl Kiesler on Instagram. Like, his tables are... It would be an honor to play at his tables with all the stuff that he puts into that. So, you're not playing heroes. You're playing the guys who survived the apocalypse. So we've got the professional, we've got 11 others. You can play a law dog, right? You can play a police officer, and you actually get some benefits when making your character. If you pick a law enforcement or a first responder, but the way they set up character creation, they remove some options from the everyday lives because most people don't have combat edges or specialized training. Those are things you pick up as the game continues because you're learning to survive. Now, the setting rules section of this game is really where it shines, so that's really where I want to focus going forward. Because Savage Worlds is fast, furious, and fun, and it's got a very pulp heroic feel to it, which, as Rook said, unless you change the genre and make it more Resident Evil, it doesn't really fit with the style of horror that Dead End claims to want to reinforce, and they succeed. Reading through this, I immediately want to run a last as long as you can community building survival horror game in a world that has been destroyed by zombies. So, what are some of these setting rules, and how do they change the game, and why is this important? Well, the first one right off the bat is amputation. If you get bit by a zombie, you have till the end of the scene to amputate the part of the body that got bit. Otherwise, it's too late for you. Spoilers for the early seasons of Walking Dead. There's that one really gruesome scene in the prison where they have to they don't know if it's going to work, but they amputate the guy's leg in hopes that he survives. And they understand the gruesomeness of these scenes, so even witnessing it causes mental anguish, which is another setting rule. And if you succeed, you're fine. And if you're not, it's only a matter of time before you turn. They have rules for decapitation. They have rules for how the characters can evolve. But the first rule that I came across that really changes the way Savage Worlds play is fate is cruel. Anytime the survivor rolls a 1 on your wild die, regardless of what the other die rolls, you are stuck with that 1 and do not get to re-roll it. So there are just going to be some times where fate is against you and you slip and fall, or you don't make it over the fence, or you wildly miss and leave yourself open for the zombie attack. They've replaced fear with mental anguish, this trauma as horrific, like horror on horror is piled upon the players, and there's the strain is more important than the fear factor, if you will. Yeah, I agree. Carl's whole setup is just a labor of love and is inspirational. I enjoy teasing Tink about it, but I take no umbrage. Carl's games are beautiful, and I want to play in them next year. It was also really good to see Tink out in the wild and John Doom out in the wild. If you followed us along on Instagram, on the Iconic Production Instagram, you got to see John Doom and his cousin playing some Doomguard with us, which was awesome. Gritty headshots is another one. Any survivor that suffers a single wound to the head is immediately incapacitated and bleeding out. If you get hit in the head, good luck. We're going to come back to the Infestation deck, which is another just great setting rule that they've added. I'm going to try and cover, like, the setting rules are really where the meat and potatoes of this game is. You do get a 50-page gazetteer of the U.S. as it is in the aftermath of the zombie apocalypse. You get factions and people, some of which are trying to survive, others of which kind of look on the rest of the world as theirs for the taking. You have the good, the bad, the ugly. There's random generators for making adventures in the world. There's random generators for setting up communities that the players can come across. And there's a ton of new threats, both living and dead. But we talked a little bit about mental anguish and kind of how, as the anguish kind of pushes on, you're going to start getting hindrances, what they call derangements, because you're just seeing too much. Your brain cannot hold it anymore. Your soul begins to erode in the face of the never-ending waves of death and horror and gruesome atrocities that you see in front of you. They have rules for morality and humanity. Being overwhelmed, which is something you don't want to have happen, but when the hordes come a call-in, you may not have a choice. I also really enjoy they changed the way kind of gear and cost works. It now is scavenging and supply. So when you're looking for something, you can turn supply points in for it. But also when you're scavenging, you can go look for specific things. And as opposed to getting bogged down in the minutia, they kind of render it all with supply, which was a great choice. It allows you to manage a lot of different types of equipment that a community trying to survive a zombie apocalypse, or even a group of survivors trying to find canned goods, medical supplies, tools, that sort of things, weapons. They simplified it, and in simplifying it, they put a lot of focus on it, which, right, gear in most games is not really something we think about, but supply in Dead End is something that is massively important. And then finally, we've got, I mean, there's traumatic damage, but the last two rules I want to talk about is you don't get to soak wounds from armed attacks in Dead End, which you get to do normally in Savage Worlds, right? You get hit, you roll a soak, you may be fine. This is Dead End. If you get hit with a gun or a knife or a cleaver or the ripped off cutting edge of a paper cutter, old school paper cutter, there's no soak. You take the wounds. Now, survival chips act a little bit like conviction, where you get to add a d6 to traits or damage rolls. But it also allows you to re-roll a critical failure, recover from a derangement, attempt to soak wounds, increase your humanity, or draw and play another adventure card. These usually are gained when you realize motivation or actually selflessly act for the greater good. So it encourages the players at the table not to devolve into things only slightly better than zombies. It rewards players for completing goals, completing group goals, and acting selflessly. So while all of these derangements are in play, the survival chips help you push back against that. And then last but not least, this game comes with what is called an infestation deck. We're going to pull this up because I want to show this off. Now you can buy the infestation deck. Give me a second here. You can buy the infestation deck separately, get it print on demand through Drivethru cards and Drivethru RPG. That's where most of this is. And so you'll notice that it is like the regular deck of cards for Savage Worlds that we use. You can see clubs and spades and hearts and diamonds and the numbers. So you get to use these. You can use these as well for your initiative deck or your generation of adventures or communities. But what they control when hordes arrive. They are the timer on the game that is constantly in front of the characters, the clock that is moving ever closer to the group being attacked by a massive horde of zombies. So in general, the infestation level ranges from 0, everything's fine here, to 4, the whole place is swarming with zombies. Now, while the GM chooses an initial infestation level of the area, the rest is based off this infestation deck. And it plays off the idea that the more things you do in an area, the more likely it is that the zombies are going to notice you. So when you take actions that attract the living dead, cooking, butchering meat, firing a gun, loud noises, setting off an explosion, collapsing a building, car alarms, sirens, all of these things, you draw a card. Or more if the GM decides that, you need to draw more. And there are 2 types of cards in this deck. Those that are marked with a exclamation point at the bottom, which 3 of our cards are. They're active cards. They stay in play until they clear. Those with the lightning bolt are instant cards. Any active cards modify the infestation level. If ever at any point there's 5 or more active cards in play, a horde of zombie forms and all the active cards are discarded. Instant cards are just instants. They don't add to the clock. They just do something horrible to the players. Some of them might be good. I haven't actually been able to read through all of them. Some of them might be good, but I don't have a feeling that a lot of them are going to be great. So let's take a look at 2 of these. So if you look at the upper right-hand corner, Twist of Fate. Up is down, black is white. The world is no longer following normal rules. While this card is active, initiative is resolved in reverse. This card is cleared when a joker is revealed or all players play a Benny as a group. So you can clear action card or active cards sometimes. It does, Rook. The survival chip encourages players not to be jerks to each other, which I mean, if we look at these types of movies, it's clear that some people are going to be in it only for themselves, but that tends to be relegated towards NPCs or PCs who decide they don't really want survival chips. The six of spades, sheer number. This area simply has a high amount of undead traffic. A group of zombies wanders into the area, 2 zombies per survivor. So you're in the middle of a task, you do something that could attract the undead, you draw this card, and in busts 2 zombies in the middle of whatever you're doing. So between the layout, the art, and the setting rules, if you like zombie horror, this is the Savage World product to pick up. I am very impressed with all of the Atomic Ninja Studios supplements I've been able to read. Thank you guys if you ever watch this. I really appreciate it. But I'm under no obligation to just say, oh, yeah, this is great, and it isn't. This is actually a legitimately great product. I really appreciate all of the little attention to details that they gave to the zombie genre. It is a difficult genre to replicate without it dissolving into a grind fest or something more superhuman where you are just blowing through the zombies in massive waves. This strikes a good balance. Now, again, you need to know what you're getting into. This is George Romero's, Night of the Living Dead. This is the Walking Dead TV show and comic book. If you don't like those, if you want your zombies more Resident Evil, you can make changes to this, but its core default setting really is survival horror with humans also slipping down the path of becoming monsters. So, check it out. It's available on Drivethru RPG. I've got it pulled up over here. I'll share the link in the chat, and then I'll share the link in the show notes. And what's great about this is you can get just the PDF for $15, but they have print-on-demand options. If you want a nice 6x9, so it's the same size as the Savage Worlds books, if you want a nice set of Dead End books on your shelf, you can get these. I think next year, this time of year, I'm going to run some Dead End for my group just to see how it plays. I'll get the book, I'll get the first adventure, and I'll get the Infestation deck and just roll with it. So, on Thursday, we're going to be looking at Shadows of Esteren, another horror game that I love. It's out of France. It's possibly the most beautiful book I own on my shelf. So no Savage Worlds on Thursday, but still good gaming and good inspiration. And I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do for Halloween. I think maybe some after action reports, talk a little bit about the con, maybe talk about my experience with horror games. And then in November, we're going back to Wrath and Glory. But soon it will be Malazember. Not real sure how I'm going to title that, but it'll be an entire month looking at the Malazan Books of the Fallen, both literarily and how I would replicate them in gaming. So, thanks to everybody who's shown up. Rook, thanks for your unwavering support. Thanks to everyone else. And I am really looking forward to continuing out this year and actually keep an eye out. We're going to be revamping the whole Patreon, the whole Iconic Production channel come first of the year. Also, one of the cool things about going to Gamehole Con is I got a lot of contacts for the new show Behind the Table. Expect a ton of Beyond the Table guests coming up over the next couple of months. Just a highlight for those of you watching this, we're going to be talking with Alexander, who's launching his Kickstarter for Acts 2 in like a half hour, I believe. We're going to be talking with Steven Chenault, who got to work with Gary Gygax over at Trollord Games. Rick Meintz from Chaosium is going to come on and talk about Greg Stafford. We're going to talk with Alexander of Fate of the Norns, which is another just beautiful game. And starting in the new year, I'm going to probably do some reviews of the Castles of Crusade system, as Trollord Games was kind enough to send me a bunch of material. I'm also looking forward to hopefully trying to reach out to the guy who does Hyperborea and get him on the show to talk about that experience. But Let's see here. I think it is Warhammer November and Malazan December, Tink. You're on top of it. And then a big thanks to Chris Valentine for this Friends with Benny's Savage Crew t-shirt that he gave me at Gamehole Con. So that's it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I will be back on Thursday with more Behind the Screen. And until then, have a good one.